We have breaking news from the NHL. The Dallas Stars, who of course were the runners-up in a Western Conference final, have fired head coach Peter Deboer. We'll discuss the scenario and what happens next for the team coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. We just had some breaking news from the NHL. The Dallas Stars have just announced that the team has decided to part ways and have essentially fired head coach Peter Deboer. Now, Deboer did have another year left on his contract. Of course, for the most part, had a decent amount of success as the coach of the Dallas Stars, just as he had with most other teams that he's coached as well. The guy's been to the Western Conference final, it seems like, on a yearly basis here. He led the Dallas Stars there, did the same thing with Vegas. He's had a lot of success in the regular season, a lot of playoff success, except for getting to that ultimate, Stanley Cup on his resume. But at the end of the day, Deboer, as much as he might be a good coach, he kind of brought this on himself. Yes, the Dallas Stars as a team fell short in the Western Conference final to the Edmonton Oilers, but to me, it's how he handled things. It wasn't even so much a lot of the things that led to this. Like, if he wasn't sewered Jake Ottinger the way he did, I don't know that we're having this conversation today, and this is probably not the news that we're going to have announced. But Peter Deboer in Game 5 of the Western Conference Final, which ultimately was the last game of the season for the Dallas Stars, lost his mind. He completely went off the rails. I mean, I know the Dallas Stars got off to a really bad start. The Oilers scored 2 shots on 2 goals. He calls timeout to try to settle things down. And in the process, he calls timeout and yanks his goalie, but yet the communication with the goalie was non-existent. Like, the goalie, Jake Ottinger, is going back to the net. Doesn't even realize he's getting pulled because nobody told him. I think somebody had told Casey DeSmith to get ready, because it looked like, when you watch the video, I don't quite see him there. I think he's already gone down the hall to kind of get himself prepared. But yeah, you might want to have a conversation with your star goaltender who helped get you to this Western final and is locked up on an 8-year contract extension, and one of the, regarded as one of the best goalies in the NHL, and one of the probably top 5 to 10 goalies in the world. So, like, what are you doing with your handling of your goalie? But of course, we know Peter Deboer has a history of kind of messing things up with his goalie. You probably remember the infamous picture that was sent out on social media by Marc-Andre Fleury's agent Alan Walsh with the big sword going through Fleury. I mean, that was a Peter Deboer situation as well. Obviously, Alan Walsh and, for the most part, I think Fleury to some degree felt like he was stabbed in the back. And this is kind of the same sort of scenario. I mean, different, but sort of the same outcome. Like, the way he yanked Ottinger out of there. And then he didn't even go talk to him. He stormed by Ottinger multiple times, going to the locker room and in the intermissions and everything. Everybody thought that Ottinger was going to get pulled. They'd let him settle down. Deboer and maybe the goalie coach would have a conversation with him and get him ready to go back in the second period. That never happened. And to make matters that much more uncomfortable, where the Ottinger had this basically on the backup goalie spot, is right next to Ray Ferraro, who's doing TV talking about the scenario where he just got pulled. They keep showing replays of the goals against, analyzing the situation. It had to be one of the most uncomfortable situations you could have dreamt up. And to make matters worse with the Ottinger situation, like, not only did he not talk to him during the game and how that was all addressed, he, in the post-game media, he doubles down and basically says Ottinger played like crap. He can't beat the Edmonton Oilers. He's lost 6 out of 7 games. Just really doubled down on his response. I thought maybe by the time the game was done, he would have cooled down, had a chance to kind of rethink things and be like, okay, you know what? I screwed up here. Everybody makes mistakes. It's how you deal with them that I think defines people. And in this case, I just really didn't think it was a time for him to be doubling down. I think it would have been a good opportunity for him to be like, in retrospect, maybe, we could have done this or that. I think that's totally fine to do. And then when he speaks to the media afterwards, the next time, he even said, like, he hasn't had time, that he and Ottinger hadn't had a conversation. I'm like, how is that not possible? Like, how important he is to this organization, And what you just did is going to piss him off, embarrass him, and then you double down with you talk to the media. How can you not have it be a top priority? You got to know at this point, like, I've messed up. My job's on the line. I need to try to fix this. And no attempt. So, I mean, to me, it's not surprising because, like, we had heard rumblings here that Jim Nill was meeting with the owner, Tom Gagliardi, here in the last day or two, and that this was on their agenda and they were have to make a decision. But here we are. And in Ottinger's end of season media availability, he even admitted that it was a completely embarrassing situation. He didn't say anything bad against Deboer, the team, or nothing. Handled it very well. Was a good pro, and just went about his business in a very mature, professional way. So I got to give Ottinger a lot of credit that way. I think that's just who he is and his demeanor. Like, he just doesn't seem to be that kind of person. But ultimately, he did admit that it was a very embarrassing type of situation. And ultimately, that's, I think, a large part here why we're talking about Peter Deboer being out. Now, we did have reports from some NHL insiders as well. But I can't remember if it was Dave Pagnotta or Frank Zaravalli, or maybe it's both of them, had mentioned that there were other players, when they did their exit meetings, also spoke up to management and had other things that they were unhappy about. And I'm not sure exactly what those things were, but that there were other things mostly throughout that series that they didn't like how were handled by the coach. So ultimately, with a year left, and even though they've had a lot of regular season success, they've gone to the conference finals. Look at all these years in a row. It's time for a new voice. So who's going to be the new head coach of the Dallas Stars it's a good question. I mean, a lot of teams made coaching changes this year. We just got the last vacancy filled yesterday with the Bruins announcing Marco Sturm. We saw Dan Muse go to Pittsburgh. So a couple of newcomers into the coaching roles here in the last couple of days. There's definitely still experienced coaches out there. I think of Jay Woodcroft maybe being a good fit. I don't really know what, obviously, Jim Nill and the Stars will think. But yeah, so Pete Deboer is out. And they're also in a tight predicament cap-wise with like $5 million in space. They've got Jamie Benn as a UFA. They got Matt Duchene as a UFA. There's rumors they might trade Jason Robertson for cap space. They've got the contracts of Dumba and Labushkin, which are unfavorable. This team could look different next year. I mean, they made some good moves, and obviously the Mikko Rantanen trade, for the most part, looked pretty good. He himself in the playoffs, you look at his playoff stats too, and they look, if you just look at the numbers, they look good. But if you break it down per game, it's not. A lot of Rantanen's points came in a couple of games. He went nuclear there at the end of the Avalanche series, and I think the first game against the Jets. And other than that, he was really quiet. So I think the Dallas Stars, even though they still look really good on paper, they have a lot of good things there to be, positive about moving forward. I think they have some concerns. And they have some tough decisions to make besides the coach. So it'll be interesting to see who the next head coach is, and it's how quickly is Peter Deboer going to resurface here. It makes you wonder. I kind of wondered if a team like Boston was kind of delaying making their announcement, wondering if this was going to happen, because teams do that and like, well, geez, if that guy comes available and he was interested in coming here, but right now there's no other vacancies in the NHL besides the one that Deboer was just fired from, because he's gone from job to job to job pretty quickly. Like, he went from like San Jose to Vegas to Dallas, just bing, bing, boom, boom, like with like no times. So here we are. Let me know your thoughts on Deboer being fired by the Dallas Stars. Did they make the right move? Who should be the next head coach? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.